G'day, blokes. I've noticed that you are both very stylish gentlemen. Thank you. I'd wanted to know if that, guys, if you're just listening to this show, you're missing out. Clearly.
I'm here in full Ferrucci. And James is
I'm
here
in a peacock costume. So this is the exact transcript of the lift I just got from my mum and my grandma. So we're on a side road going on to Kilburn High Road, and two buses with film posters on them go past. The first one is Bullet Train with Brad Pitt featured very prominently on it. And my grandma goes, "Oh, that Bullet Train, I heard it's not worth your time." And my mum goes, "Oh, that Brad Pitt and that Angelina Jolie, she just needs to just stop meddling with the divorce. She's really screwed him over." And then it's, what is it, Tickets to Paradise with George Clooney and Julia Roberts. And they both go, "Oh, but that George Clooney, I do like that George Clooney." Yeah, oh, that George Clooney, he does. We go, "Oh, and Pierce Brosnan, I like Pierce Brosnan." Anything Pierce Brosnan.
I do like Pierce
classic.
Brosnan.
Like, oh, we should go and see that one. Not
maybe,
that one. Yeah.
That I feel like the.
But I told my grandma Bullet Train is actually good fun. I think she'd enjoy it.
Is your grandma really the kind of Bullet Train audience?
Yeah. She likes a bit of action.
Really?
Yeah.
How old is your grandma?
She is in her late 70s.
Okay.
I don't know the exact year.
Good for her.
Yeah.
I would say I'm a bit, that new Clooney Roberts film, Tickets to Paradise. I feel like it's a bit random. Sort of come out of nowhere, and I'm worried it's kind of sort of going to come and go. But I feel when I see something like that, I look forward to watching that on streaming.
I'm going to see it in cinema.
Really?
It's what I think is what I've been craving to see in the cinema for a while.
Oh, what, a good rom-com?
A good, cozy rom-com where everyone is beautiful and looked more beautiful in the film. And there's I've not seen it, but I want a really clear sense of this is going to happen in the end, and then it will happen in the end. That comfort of there'll be no more surprises. Yeah, because I just feel like I'm living my life where everyone keeps saying, well, this is a once in a lifetime scenario when we've had like a pandemic, an insurrection on democracy, a reality star being elected president, leaving the European. Everyone's like, oh, it's a once in a lifetime cost of living crisis. I'd quite like to know what happens at the end of my movies.
Once in a year relationship kind of thing.
I like the comfort of knowing, Frodo will throw the ring in the volcano and everything will be okay.
I like, Julia Roberts and George Clooney, they do have that spark. They are good at doing sparky stuff.
Like a cheeky wink in their eye.
I like it when George Clooney does fun, when he does funny.
Yeah.
When he, like in Burn After Reading, he's really good in that. But he's not being the funny guy, he's playing it seriously, but he's playing it for laughs.
Comedy happens around him,
yeah exactly.
It's a comedic character. I remember in Hail Caesar, which was a film I was really looking forward to seeing, you see that like Coen Brothers-esque like neurotic energy to him, but I never really found Hail Caesar that.
No, totally.
I was really excited for it. I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, oh, all the actors and all the things.
That was one of those times when I thought, am I going to have to actually like write a bit of correspondence to the studios to complain about it being misleading, right? Which some people have done. Recently, there was a case where this couple brought a legal case against some film studio for saying that Ana de Armas was the lead star in a film to rent on Amazon, right? And I think she was either cut from the I think she wasn't even in the final version.
What film is that where she got cut?
I can't remember.
I know of this,
but so they went to watch it, being huge Ana de Armas fans, and she wasn't in it. And then they made a complaint saying we paid money, you've advertised this.
Interesting. She would have been in the cast list from before she went to the cutting room floor.
And then so when I saw Hail Caesar, there's a thing in the trailer where it's like, you've got this ensemble of characters. You've got Jonah Hill, you've got Josh Brolin, you've got Scarlett Johansson, you've got Tilda Swinton twice as two different characters. You've got George Clooney, and you think this is like a thing, a big ensemble piece. And there's a bit in the trailer where Josh Brolin says, so and so, so and so, so and so, which is and the trailer shows Jonah Hill, Scarlett Johansson, and Alden Ehrenreich, and it's like he says so and so, so and so, and so and so. Thanks for coming. I need your help. So-and-so has been captured, right? Which is George Clooney's character, right?
Okay, yeah.
Which, to my understanding, was like, oh, I see. This big star's been kidnapped, and he needs to rally like some random people from around the studio to help him get this person back. That does not happen in the film. There is never a moment where he says, you, and you, because those characters never come together. The idea of him rallying a team together to rescue this person doesn't happen. That's not the premise of the film. It's him just going from episode to episode while this separate thing with George Clooney happens. And I got to the end and I was like, why even put Jonah Hill on the poster? He's in one scene. Scarlett Johansson's in like 2. I felt really teased.
Well, this is an interesting thing about trailers and how much you want to be shown. Sorry, just that film you're referencing, Google says was Yesterday. She was cut out of Yesterday.
Right.
But there's this interesting idea that we see far too much. And how many times have you and I watched a trailer where we go, well, I now feel like I've seen the entire film?
There was one, which we'll be talking about later. I had to stop watching it.
I feel like I've seen it.
Yeah.
So people go, oh, stop showing your shots in the trailer. And I think there have been a couple of instances where filmmakers have put shots in the trailer that don't make it into the final film. And it's sort of this, well, are you misleading people because you're showing something that's not going to be in the final product? Or are you giving people a sense of what your film is about through an artistic trailer, but not actually showing what's in the film? The most famous one I can think of, boringly, is in the original Force Awakens teaser, the shot of Kylo Ren putting out his lightsaber. That's not in the Force Awakens. Yes. You just hear it.
But
for a teaser, it didn't matter.
That was clearly filmed in the same scene on the same day. They just chose to edit it differently. Whereas there are other shots from films. Do you remember, Predators? We talked about recently.
Yes,
Adrian Brody one. There's a bit in the trailer for that where he gets loads of Predator red dots all over his chest, and you're like, never happens in the film.
Yeah.
Rogue One famously has loads of bits that aren't in the film, but we know that's because they had reshoots and redone. So if you watch the Rogue One trailer now, you're like, oh, that never happens.
The Rogue One, there's loads of shots.
Like the bit where the TIE fighter comes up right in front of you. Just stuff that you can't even say, it's the scene happens, but it's from a different angle. Yeah. It just doesn't happen.
Marvel lick their thumbs and like erase characters from shots.
Yeah.
A lot. Like they got rid of like Smart Hulk in a couple of shots of trailers for Endgame.
Yeah.
Because there
are video comparisons you can watch online. So
there's weird blocking because obviously like any ensemble film has to be really careful with like where you place characters. It's quite obvious when there's a big gap.
Yes.
And you're like, well, someone is meant to be there, standing there. And then there was the Spider-Man one where they were rubbing out the other Spider-Man in the trailer, but you could see like they had kicked something. It's like an invisible ghost had like kicked the lizard. And people were like, that's obviously Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, who has like been in the scene. They've literally been like,
I thought it was one where they like in the Brazilian trailer for it.
That was the one.
They also left lizard in, so people were like, lizard. Right. So from Amazing Spider-Man, which means Amazing Spider-Man's in it. So worst kept secret ever. But I think we should talk about something else, James. I think people have a right to know that it was your birthday this week.
Oh, it was.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
And it passed and you didn't say anything and I forgot what day it was.
That's all right. We did do. Well, I see you quite a lot.
Yes.
So it's not like I'm worried that you've forgotten about me. we communicate quite a lot. Yeah, it was my birthday on Thursday. Did a little thing at my home on Friday. You got me a very nice gift, which I really appreciated. He got me a Vandelay Industries t-shirt from Seinfeld. It was like selling latex. It was like architecture latex.
No, it's an importer-exporter of latex goods. Yeah.
Importer-exporter.
Yeah. And I got that from the NBC store in New York, where they're like very well organized, beautifully air-conditioned merchandise of everything. Like, you want Jimmy Fallon mugs? Over here.
Got it.
You want Seinfeld merchandise? Over here. Anything for the office? Over there.
Did they do like the plain white tee with the Seinfeld?
Yeah, and I thought I didn't want you to think that I could have just gone to HMV and picked that up.
My one's more subtle.
Yes.
It's like a fan will go Vandelay Industries. Not everyone just going to read the Friends logo or the Seinfeld logo and be like, that's the thing. But yeah, that's one of my favorite episodes of Seinfeld when he's trying to convince the people to keep giving him money and he runs out of the toilet with his hands. It's like, Vandelay Industries! Vandelay Industries! Save Vandelay! Latex.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, that was Seinfeld. So anyway, welcome and happy birthday
Thank you.
to you, James.
Thank you. George, I have a question to ask you based on some news that I saw. I was listening to a podcast where they addressed some news. And you don't have to know the answer to this.
Okay.
Do you prefer to watch a TV show all at once, Netflix model, here are all the episodes, you watch 3 a night, 2 a night, 1 a night, but completely in your own time? Or do you prefer to watch a TV show once a week where they trickle it out like they used to do in TV? Do you have one that you prefer to do?
Very good question. It almost depends on the show.
Yeah,
because there are shows that are constructed with such precision and like leaving you wanting more that when it's stretched out every week, that's brilliant. It gives you like this little joy. Okay, no, actually, I do have an answer. I do think I'd land more than one way. I think I'd actually say I prefer it weekly.
Yeah.
Because ask me 5 years ago, I would have said all at once. and I've definitely binged series, and that's great. And you know, in the production of this show, it's very handy sometimes to catch up and binge all at once. But what I would say is, if you have them weekly, you can still do that. What I'd often do is I wait a few weeks, let them build up, and then I can smash through them, and then I can still. So basically, if I want to binge it, I can, or if I want to be there every week, waiting for it to come, I can. I think the reason that the weekly one is better is that I've noticed this, that the time between a show's episodes, when you're not watching the TV, is just as valuable as the time you spent actually watching it, right? Because
the conversation, the water cooler moment at work.
Totally. And if you know, I remember when I watched The White Lotus, for example, I remember I finished one episode and I would go away and I'd be thinking about it and I'd be turning it over in my head.
You discuss it with friends.
And if I then immediately chain smoked and got through the next episode, I wouldn't be thinking about the episode I just watched anymore. I'd be thinking about the next episode I'd just seen, right? So everything I'd been thinking about from episode 3 was gone, and I'd be thinking about stuff from episode 4. But you're denying yourself a really rich, you're denying yourself the opportunity to develop a more rich, deeper relationship with that show, because you have literally spent more time with it in your head than if you binged it. If you watched all of Stranger Things in 2 days, as opposed to 2 months or a month, the person who's watched it for a month is probably going to get more out of it because they've spent more time between episodes thinking about it and evaluating it. And I think that's a richer experience than simply just watching it for content's sake. Do you agree?
So interesting you say that. It sounds like there are rumors that Netflix is going to depart from their have it all at once model, and they are going to start week by week drip feeding. So I think there is a sense, there's the point you just made about having like time to contemplate what's happened and discuss it. But I also think you are giving yourself 10 weeks for people to talk about your show versus 1 or 2.
Exactly.
Like there's a lot of hype around these shows that like Rings of Power right now. Like would it have just been a week of talking about it or 2 weeks of talking about it versus like it's a real back and forth of people, like there's new social content, there's new reviews.
Yes, because
like,
they're doing it weekly, sorry.
They're doing it weekly, right. And I think it's interesting if that's penduluming the other way from what we would have wanted all at once.
Because I think if you were trying to, in the original days of Netflix, if you're trying to build a fan base for Netflix, right? And you're like, well, here's what's great about us, all the episodes at once, help yourself. But again, I mentioned Stranger Things. You take a show that has a massive fan base. If you give it to everyone all at once, that entire fan base is watching it on different schedules at different times.
Yeah.
So then some people are seeing spoilers. Yeah. Some people are way ahead and feel left out when everyone else is still getting to it.
Yeah.
But if everyone is actually watching it in a synchronized weekly pattern, then that has its own momentum built in. You're right. As you say, there's 10 weeks worth of conversation there as opposed to, 2 weeks.
Especially when you're leading up to like a big finale and people want to like get together to watch the finale.
Yes.
Like that's such an event that people will do. So I think it's interesting that we've come from, no, you get it all at once and it's this new format, and Netflix kind of pioneered it. And if it goes back, or if they start having certain shows which are drip fed, it just sounds like what they want to do.
Also, the benefit of weekly is that you can watch more other shows alongside it.
Yeah.
As the problem is with binging, I'm like, I have to like...
Do I have to watch 3 hours of this? Yeah.
Rule out a week to watch just this one show, then another one. I think I'm not surprised to get much. I like that.
What you can do, once that 10-week period is over, you can just watch it in the binged way. Like it's only for like the period that it's coming out that you would have to do that.
Yeah,
like,
for the rest of time that it exists, it's there to binge.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting how people are sort of going back to this. Like we used to only watch things once a week because there was a schedule of TV and there were only so many hours in the day, and you have to have your slot, and then you would have the next week would run. But it's interesting, we're just sort of reinventing this non like it's just data on the internet. There is no schedule, but it's just a learned human behavior of like, well, no, it's not on TV right now, so you can't watch it.
I'd be interested to know what other people think as well.
Yeah, what do you prefer? Absolutely.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We've got a couple of emails which we'll go through later about our response to our chat that we had about
or the streaming services.
One might die, one won't. But we'll pick up on that later.
Okay,
but I just thought I'd pick your brain and see if there was one that you actually preferred to do.
Yeah, I think it is weekly now. But I did talk about this show more, but then it got rubbed out with that episode that disappeared.
Oh, right.
But I know I always talk about
Better Call Saul.
Thank you. But that was weekly,
yes,
and I definitely benefited from it.
Yeah, like the end of an episode of Succession, it always has that like moody rising score and like a hum, and then like the credits just sort of come in. You're like, oh my god, I have so much to say and think about this.
Sorry, having just brought up Succession and Better Call Saul in the same breath, and I'm sorry if I'm boring people by talking about Better Call Saul so often.
No,
But
not at all.
I'm going to champion a show that I really, really think is great. The Emmys were this week, right? I don't know if you saw the results.
No.
So there was a really interesting results, kind of no major surprises, but some good news. So White Lotus won a couple, which is great.
Well
the guy,
deserved.
the guy who plays the concierge,
Yes.
the main guy, he won.
Yeah, he's
And Jennifer Coolidge, oh God, I'm taking the damn dog, dumbass. She won an Emmy. Michael Keaton won for Dope Sick, which is great.
Yeah.
So I like, White Lotus is an original show.
Zendaya get a bunch.
Zendaya won
Yeah.
again for Euphoria, totally deserved. White Lotus is an original show, great to see it recognised. Dope Sick is about something really important, and it was a brilliant show, great to have that done. And then Succession won Best Show, right?
Yeah.
I have this thing, and it's not just because I wanted something small, like Better Call Saul to win, but it's that Succession, I like Succession, you
Yeah.
like Succession, everyone likes Succession. Succession is like the biggest show on TV and like one of the most popular shows
Yeah.
around, right? One of the most critically acclaimed. It almost doesn't need to win an Emmy.
It's
right?
like past the point of needing recognition. Yeah.
Succession would have continued on its course undeterred if it had not won an Emmy the other night.
Yeah.
Whereas something like a show like Better Call Saul, which has a very small audience, has a fantastic work in
Yeah.
it, which is loved by a lot of people. Everyone who actually engages with that show really likes it. It's just that it hasn't broken out. If that had won an Emmy, that would have made a lot of difference. They would have
Yeah.
recognised it. But it's just like, you gave it to the popular kid again. You gave it to the kid who always gets A stars.
This is an interesting point about the purpose of an awards show. Is an awards show meant to tell you what you already know is good? Like, are we all meant to say, well, that is the best show, or is it meant to highlight something that deserves an award but isn't
Right.
necessarily that? Like, that's a different
Sure.
conversation. I know exactly what you're talking about,
Right.
but if Succession is the best, not that we can measure it in,
Yeah,
a
sure.
numerative way, it's completely subjective. Should you go, well, I think everyone knows about Succession, so therefore it doesn't deserve the award. Let's give it to like a show that's really great but underappreciated,
Yeah.
like Hannibal was. That show's
Right,
meant to be
yes.
amazing.
Yeah,
but
you
it
said,
really
yeah.
just couldn't build an audience. Had a very small, loyal audience. Where do you sit with that?
I don't know. I just feel like to use the classroom analogy, if you've got a classroom of kids and there's a kid who's already won prizes, and
Yeah,
stuff, isn't
yeah.
it good to give it to the slightly more overlooked child, the one who might have something else to say? Because otherwise it feels very cynical that it's just like, we know lots of people love Succession, so if we come out and say Succession is great, that obviously it's voted for, I know it's slightly
Yeah.
democratic, then everyone will go, oh, I love the Emmys because they voted for Succession won, fantastic, that's great. I don't know, it's a pet peeve, but
Yeah, it's like should Ronaldo and Messi not win the Ballon d'Or every year?
Right.
But like there are millions of other amazing players that aren't as well known as Ronaldo and Messi, but you cannot take away from what Ronaldo and Messi do
Yes,
every
yeah.
single year, less so now. But like to use that analogy, like what they do is leagues above everyone else, even though they're the two most famous people on the planet, arguably.
I don't know, I just thought,
Yeah.
so, yeah, okay. Anyway, that's it. But anyway, TV.
TV.
So, James, it's an exciting time for film because we are about to head into the awards season, okay?
Yes.
I mean, technically, it's kind of already begun.
It's like 6 months long, isn't it?
6 months long, and it usually kicks off with Venice Film Festival through, I think, Toronto, London. You've got Cannes all the way back in May, where the sort of the initial contenders are kind of selected.
Start to get a little buzz going on,
Yeah,
don't
get a little
you?
buzz, and then Venice, everyone comes forward and basically says, we think this tranche of films could work, and then they get slowly whittled down and whittled down and whittled down until you get to the Oscars ultimately at the end of awards season
Yep.
in about February time, right? And obviously through that, BAFTAs, Golden Globes, etc. There are a lot of contenders out this year, and I think a lot of really good and really exciting contenders, and I think it'd be really interesting to sit down and look at the films that are coming up in the next few months.
Great
that
idea.
We'll be going to the cinema to see, and what we could be talking about in a few months' time as potential Oscar winners.
And I feel like all of a sudden there are just loads of films. I feel like, was there a little bit of a dry spell in the summer? I could be making that up, but I just all of a sudden feel like trailer,
I just
film
think
come
that-
out, and they've snuck up on me.
I
and
think
it's
sometimes
ramping up.
I think sometimes you just get a good year. You just
Yeah.
get a good crop, as it
Yes.
were, like a crop cycle.
Yeah, I like
Maybe
that.
it could be that.
Good harvest.
I think artistically, culturally, there are a lot of interesting things coming out across film, music, design, whatever. That I knew this would happen. Like, you have COVID, you have a lot of self-reflection, you have a lot of things, and then you have this explosion of creativity out of that when that finishes. So, James, I'm going to run through about 10 films that are coming up in the next few months that we should talk about. There are a lot of articles about this online with different contenders and different ones. There's some on Entertainment Weekly, some on IndieWire. Predominantly, this episode will be taking from an article by Joe Media by a guy called Rory Cashin, just for references.
Okay.
So one of the first contenders to talk about, and a trailer for it was released this week, was Damien Chazelle's new film, Babylon.
Yes.
Right? So Damien Chazelle, obviously, La La Land, Whiplash. This film's got Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie in it, sort of set in the golden age of Hollywood. And the trailer doesn't show you much other than a very, very frenetic, energetic, sort of highly visual, but not a lot of substance on the plot level.
Music stems from music.
Yeah,
stuff.
explosion of sound and vision, right?
If I had all the money, I'd just want everyone to party all the time.
Yeah, you have these scenes of these like incredibly hedonistic parties. Margot Robbie taking a lot of cocaine.
It opens with a sniff of the Paramount stars.
Yes,
like a line of cocaine.
Although, which I was trying to marry up because the film looks like it's set in the 50s. But
yeah,
forgive me if I'm being naive, but I thought cocaine didn't like hit the market until like the 70s. I thought it was like 70s. I mean,
I'd have to ask.
I'd have to ask Pablo Escobar. Anyway.
So just on that, have you seen the Mickey Flanagan sketch about cocaine?
No.
When he's like, coke in the 80s, only celebrities could have it. It was expensive. It was for the glamorous, the famous, the rich. But in the 90s, everyone was at it. The plumber was at it. Everyone down the pub was at it. And I remember in the 90s, I used to be at the pub and they'd walk up to me. They'd go, all right, Mick, you want a little cheeky Tuesday? A little cheeky Tuesday line? And I used to go, that's all right, Nan, I'm good.
Very good one. So, apparently this is set in the era of Hollywood when the movies were transitioning from silent movies to talkies, right? That's all the sort of gist I've been given here. Look, visually, it looks great. We know Damien Chazelle can do like energy. We know he can do music. And it's interesting that of all of his projects now, like this obviously lines up with Whiplash and La La Land and even the Eddie, that TV show he did. But like First Man is almost like the outlier. Think about it, First Man, which is quite cold, quite emotional, kind of quite sterile film. It doesn't sit in the sort of Chazelle canon that seems to be appearing, right? You saw the trailer. What did you think?
I think it looks very cool. I think
Showed too much in the trailer.
I
had to stop watching
with a lot
it.
of these. I'm like, I wish I didn't have to watch this for the podcast, but I'm doing anyway. I think what I like about Damien Chazelle films is that he always seems to be able to make a really great dramatic spectacle of something otherwise very calm and tame, like a drum performance. Like he shows you the stakes of that, or like he'll take something very simple like walking on the moon, but like the silence is what brings it completely alive. And then in La La Land, like playing the piano in a bar, all of a sudden like the weight of everything that's come before that is always so beautifully crafted to that moment, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm always like excited to see the ways in which he does that, which he brings tension to a singular point in the film. There's only so much to say. It's a trailer that looks very fun. It looks like it's got a Damien Chazelle musical flair to it. I'm looking forward to it.
But like I said, though, it doesn't give a lot away in terms of story.
I don't know what it's about.
My hesitancy when I ever see things like that is like maybe too much style over substance. Who knows? But I still think
characters, got personalities, colours, styles.
Yeah. Definitely something to see. I mean, just Damien Chazelle, his career, it's not even 10 years old yet. And I still want to see what he makes because I still think he's got so much promise. So definitely looking forward to that.
I like that he's mixed it up a fair bit.
Yeah.
Every time he's doing something different.
Well, except like it's all slightly musical with the exception of First Man. Yeah.
But but La La Land was a musical and Whiplash was a music film that really wasn't a musical. But
Next up is the new Martin McDonagh film, which is The Banshees of Inisherin. Apologies if I've got that
Well done.
Incorrect. So Martin McDonagh, of course, who did In Bruges, Seven Psychopaths, and Three Billboards. This reunites the In Bruges cast of Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. It also stars Barry Keoghan. And it's... I'd seen this film talked about, and they released a trailer for it, and I've watched it, and it looks like we're very much back in Martin McDonagh territory of... black comedy, very funny, almost a bit farcical setup, infused with a lot of danger. Whereas I thought that Three Billboards was kind of heading more into just sort of straight drama territory.
Yeah.
This has the Martin McDonagh kind of lick all over it. So it's hard to describe what it's about, but from the trailer, it's this really intriguing premise where it's set in Ireland in, I want to say, the 1800s.
Yeah.
And in a tiny village and a very small community. And Brendan Gleeson's character just stops talking to Colin Farrell's character. He just basically decides he just wants to have nothing to do with him, but for no reason. No one knows why. And Colin Farrell is so bothered by this and increasingly bothered by this. So he says, why won't you talk to me? Why won't you do this? And Brendan Gleeson says, I don't like you. I don't want you to speak to me. Just leave me alone. And Colin Farrell becomes increasingly frazzled. And then Brendan Gleeson gets to the point of like invoking violence, where he says, if you speak to me one more time, I'm going to cut off one of my fingers.
Yeah.
And there's just this strange, like, oh my God, there's danger in the air.
Yeah.
There's blood in the air, but this is also really funny. And it reminded me of In Bruges. I really like In Bruges a lot. And, you know, Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell together, they have those wonderful faces that could just show like pain and comedy and tragedy all together at the same time. So I'm really excited. What did you think?
I really like Brendan Gleeson's really good at playing grumpy.
No,
and I think what Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson do well is they're both like visually very different actors and presences in a film, but it works quite well to have them share the screen. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it looks strange. Like I saw that line. It's like, if you talk, I'll cut my finger off. Well, I'm just intrigued.
Yeah,
What's going to happen? And yeah, I'm in.
And like Barry Keoghan says, well, no, you know, he could cut his finger off and still play the fiddle. He might be fine. I also think Colin Farrell has one of those faces where, you know, Colin Farrell can be very handsome and very dashing and be a leading man, but he can also like dress down and lose himself in a role. Like in like 13 Lives, he's just like this ordinary, you know, IT technician, scuba diver. Very excited about that. Next film is Empire of Light. I've seen a lot of people talking about this. This is Sam Mendes' new film, right?
Yes.
So I really feel like Sam Mendes is kind of at the height of his powers right now.
Okay.
He's had sort of critical darling films behind him, Revolutionary Road, American Beauty, but he's also navigated big blockbusters, you know, Skyfall, Spectre, 1917.
Yeah.
I feel like he's now in a position where he can really make the film that he wants to make. And it's one of the first of several films in this awards camp that are about cinema itself, right?
Yeah.
So Empire of Light has got Olivia Colman and an actor called Michael Ward, who won a BAFTA, I think, for Best Newcomer. He was in some of the Steve McQueen Small Axe films. It's also got Colin Firth and Toby Jones. And, you know, it's about, I want to say it's set in the 1970s in, I want to say, like Hastings or Essex, or some sort of British coastal town. And it's an era of, you know, slightly drab interiors, skinheads on the street, like palpable racism, but also the magic of cinema, this old dusty cinema. And you know, Toby Jones is in it as the projectionist. And the whole trailer, if you see it, is whipped up with a very cinematic score, shot by Roger Deakins. It's a Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross score. That's what makes it really interesting. Trent Reznor, Roger Deakins. You know, you've got big hitters like Olivia Colman. This is like a very top level film. I think it looks intriguing. No?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it looks really good. Again, not much to know about what it's about apart from these little glimmers to this is how film is, and the magic is taking 24 frames to change to elude the eye. And it reminds me similar of the film you'll go on to talk about Spielberg, which is all talk about the magic of cinema. I'm in. Like you got this big awards. Like, is it Toby Jones? Yeah, Toby Jones, Olivia Colman, big heavy hitters. I'm in.
But my only thing is that like it looks great and it sounds great and it's going to be very polished, and I'm sure I'll agree with the idea of the film. I'm yet to see a Sam Mendes film that I really, really think, wow, this guy's got a proper a personal thing for me. I don't think his films are bad, but I'm yet to see something where I personally really respond to Sam Mendes film. I liked 1917. I liked
Beauty,
Skyfall. I've really only seen that once, and I think I need to go back and watch that again. I've not seen Revolutionary Road, but I'm yet to see something that I go, that is like top stuff.
I think American Beauty, I wonder how well it holds up now with some of the themes that it deals with. That's the only thing I've only just
Older
thought
man,
about.
Younger woman.
Yeah, but it is. I think the point of that is that it is wrong.
Yeah, I think it's addressed.
So more that like the style of it, because I think when I first saw it, I was like, wow, this is such an artist. I saw it quite young. This is such an artistic film. It's so beautiful. All these like weird, larger than life sequences. I'm a fan of Revolutionary Road, but I do wonder if American Beauty holds up. That's my only thought. But yeah, no, 1917 I enjoyed, but I wasn't like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing, which I think some people left the cinema thinking it was like the next big thing.
Yeah.
Skyfall, great. Spectre, a mess.
Yeah, agree. Well, it looks very charming, and I would still look forward to seeing it. Brilliant. Similar to that is The Fabelmans, which you just touched upon, right? So it's another film about the magic of cinema. And this is Steven Spielberg's latest film, semi-autobiographical about his childhood and growing up in his household, where, if anyone knows anything about Spielberg's childhood, his father was very scientific and very academic and smart, and his mother was very creative and very artistic, and you had this sort of real dichotomy in their household. The father in this is played by Paul Dano. Love Paul Dano. Mother played by Michelle Williams. Love Michelle Williams.
Paul Dano does mostly the same thing, but it's always a little great twist on what he does.
Well,
Do you know what I
he's
mean?
one of those actors that can stay within his acting style and bring the roles to him.
Yeah.
Without you thinking he's doing the same thing again. But like
that's
it
Paul
works
Dano.
each time.
Yeah, it's like that is Paul Dano, but I'm really enjoying this version of Paul Dano every single time.
So
Michelle Williams also great.
It's set in what I want to say is like the the 1950s, and also Seth Rogen's also in it, and Judd Hirsch. And it's about he's not called Steven Spielberg in it. Of course, he's called he's a substitute. Growing up, now this film, a bit like Empire of Light, the trailer is all about the magic of cinema, and at home it's got the flicker of light,
very soft and dewy-eyed and glowy.
James, I'm going to be honest with you. I watched the trailer for the film and I started to well up. I found it like I thought it was really like something. I don't know if you had similar reaction.
There's this great moment where he's like looking down the lenses of a camera for the first time, and he's playing with like the way in which light is being projected, and he's like cupping it in his hands.
Yeah.
And there's so many amazing imagery for what that could entail. This moment where he shoots a toy train and starts to cut sequences together of it crashing and buckling, and he shows it to his mum, and you are reminded that seeing film for the first time is really like magic, and seeing real people in colour on a screen is something we really take for granted. That is magic, and that trailer really made you think about that feeling for the first time and what it would be like, and that's why I think it sort of looks really special, and it could be really good.
Yeah, and it makes you realise also our love of cinema is so much tied to memory and the environment in which we watch something, and like
who you were with, and
even they say the way the brain understands film is a bit like how the brain understands memory. It just sort of functions in the same space.
Yeah. It's got that like glow. I know I haven't seen West Side Story, but West Side Story also had this like soft mist glow to everyone, and it just looks super larger than life and idyllic.
Yeah.
And
well, here's the thing. Like, I think I've mentioned this before. Throughout Spielberg's career, the role of the child and the relationship between the child and the adult and the child's perception of the world has run through all of his films.
Yeah.
And that childlike wonder, that it's almost like known as Spielbergian wonder, is there throughout all of his work. For him to now like turn back and look directly into the source, it's like directly into the core of the universe where this has all come from.
He's telling his story.
And he's telling a story.
I
think that's what struck me. I thought, wow, this is so powerful because he's been able to Spielbergize his own childhood, which is like, it's like doubling down. It's like, antimatter. It just, this could be really, really
double negative.
It's especially potent. So I was really intrigued by how moved I was by the trailer. That's called The Fabelmans.
Also, Seth Rogen appearing in what I assume is a largely non-comedic role.
Yes.
It will be a serious role, and I feel like he's having a slight career shift. I think it's been happening for a while, but he is definitely transitioning away. I think it'd be really cynical. You could say Seth Rogen was like the college stoner comedy guy. And I don't think that's true, but like if you were to label him, and I think he's really just shifting into completely different roles.
Well, anyone who knows, like Seth Rogen has been producing. Has operated mostly as a producer for the past 5 years. So like he's clearly very intelligent and has a keen like brain for this kind of thing. And I love it when they break out and do other things. I'm not surprised. I look forward to seeing that. In the same way I love Jonah Hill when he went and did. I'm just thinking we haven't seen a non-comedic Jonah Hill performance in a while. He directed a film called Mid-90s, which is okay.
I like Mid-90s,
But I mean, Jonah Hill in The Wolf of Wall Street is fantastic. A comedic performance, I know, but in the context of a bigger Scorsese vehicle, he works so brilliantly in that film.
That was interesting talk. Have you heard him talk about the interviews about how nervous he was and how he felt like he was really cocking it up? No. And there are a few days where he's filming and he feels like he's overacting and he's over trying, and he kept going because Scorsese kept being like, let's do it again, and then he stopped, sent everyone out of the set, and he just sat with Jonah Hill on a chair, didn't say anything to him, just read the newspaper. And then after like 10, 15 minutes, Jonah Hill was just like, oh my God, like this is terrible. Like Martin Scorsese like sent me in the room. He's going to like tell me I'm fired. It's over. And Martin Scorsese just after 10 minutes just turned to him and said, ready to go again?
Huh.
And that was all Jonah Hill needed, was to just like take the nervous energy, just like to have him sit in the room with Scorsese and just like bring his heart rate down a bit.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then he did a take after that, and then Scorsese was like, that's it. Perfect. Done.
So you think that he was so buzzed about, the room of Scorsese,
Scorsese
film,
Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's like a lot. I think it's also that film is it's such big energy.
Wow.
And I think you always have to acknowledge that but contain it.
You know
and
what?
He said he learned so much.
Scorsese is such a class act.
I know, because he didn't give a note.
To have the foresight to know that that's the right thing to do,
and that to give like 6 notes in a break would actually overwhelm your cast member, and instead just to like sit with them.
Yeah.
Bring the heart rate down, chill out. But yeah,
brilliant.
That's interesting.
What a classy guy. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. On to the next film. It's a film called She Said, which it's got Carey Mulligan and Zoe Kazan. and is about the New York Times journalist who broke the Harvey Weinstein story.
Hi, I'm an investigative reporter for the New York Times.
Right, yes.
Piano tune theme into the trailer.
I think this film looks really interesting. I love Kerry Mulligan.
Same.
And Zoe Kazan's been in some interesting projects. And it's directed by Maria Schrader, who's an actress, but also did Unorthodox, that series that was on Netflix in 2020. If anyone watches the trailer, you get a good sense that this is firmly in what I like to call like editorial whistleblower thriller territory.
Yes.
Solid, cold lit,
True story.
people walking through, newspaper offices, being like, "Hi, yeah," as you say, I'd like to speak to you."
Scruffy
about
looking
this.
ordinary journalist with a coffee cup.
Yeah, people running around with laptops.
Yeah.
It's I mean,
Spotlight,
obviously,
dark water category.
it's very much Spotlight and All the President's Men. But you mentioned Dark Waters there. That whole sort of subgenre, I think there's films that really work there. Dark Waters and The Report as well. Those films always have a trouble of when you've got a massively weighty, important subject matter. You either play it straight, or you can, if it's not a great film, tip over into like grandstanding, right? Into being like, this is why this is important. In Spotlight, to be fair, apart from that one Mark Ruffalo scene, is pretty even, level-headed.
Yeah, no, it doesn't go
pretty,
dramatic.
and the same thing with Dark Waters, which you haven't seen, have you?
No.
Which I really, really love. I think that's a really good film. And again, was overlooked because people think this is a very square approach to a film. But what people didn't realize is that film, it takes a lot of effort and precision to make a film as calculated and direct when it's about an important subject like Dark Waters was. So with She Said, anyone who can see the trailer is you've got this very compelling story, which it is an interesting story, and I think it will read well cinematically. Yeah. It's obviously on like a metatextual level. It's like, okay, you've got the film industry making a film about the very story that really changed things in Hollywood 5 years ago. But I thought it came across as pretty thrilling. That's the main thing with all these words.
On that whole like genre of sort of journalist investigating, in the documentary, which is not drama, it's documentary Citizen 4 with Edward Snowden, which is when he we forget that we just assume this happens now, but it's the documentary where he tells journalists about the fact that governments take your data and use that to track you. And it's just like this really, it's so visually uninteresting, but like seeing this journalist write down and process the implications of what Edward Snowden is telling him in this really boring hotel room with a guy filming it. And this, is it an FT news reporter? I can't remember. But it's just this really unassuming English guy like listening and be like, hang on. This is what? And it's actually the power of that just being a really ordinary conversation makes the message so much more powerful. And you're like, oh, like you don't dramatize this. It's just a really simple breakdown of information, which is shocking.
These films succeed best when they let the power of the story speak for itself.
Yes. It doesn't do the Netflix documentary thing, where it's like, is this thing recording? Are we on? It's just like a camera pointing between two people in a hotel room, and you're like, oh my God, this is nuts.
That's Laura Poitras might have made Citizen 4. She made good loads of pieces of work like that. So that's called She Said. I think that looks very interesting. And there's just one more comment about this like genre of whistleblower thrillers. I find they are like the best films as if you don't know what to watch and you want something like to delve into. Official Secrets is another one.
It's really engaging.
Especially if you want to watch a film with your parents and you're like, okay, it's based on a true story.
I can't believe they did that.
Yeah, that's terrible, isn't it? Everyone gets a little pat on the back at the end about, wow, that really is awful. We've all learned something.
Solve a little problem at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't do that anymore.
Great.
I'm not buying Teflon anymore. I'm throwing them out.
That's what we did in my flat, in my house. Yeah. Are you? It's a good film, Dark Waters.
Fun fact,
The next film is called Tar, although it's got an accent over the A. Maybe it's Tar. This looks very different to the previous films we've been talking about. So this is a film with Cate Blanchett in, also got Mark Strong in it, and it's a fictional story, but the character whose surname is Tar, I can't remember her first name, Lydia Tarr. In the world of the film, is one of the most successful contemporary composers, classical composers, okay? And if you see the trailer, it's this very kind of more artistic, expressionistic delve into her mind as a musical genius. You've got images of art, static images, her talking, like thinking in slow motion. It's all about time and rhythm and the relationship between sort of like a metaphysical relationship between you and music, and when you stand on a stage.
Evocative imagery in there.
Yeah, very evocative and provocative piece of work. It's directed by a guy called Todd Field, who hasn't made a film in 16 years. He last made a film called Little Children with Kate Winslet and Patrick Wilson, adapted from a book, which is meant to be quite good. But so he's back on the scene. I think Tara is one of those films that I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't get nominated for Best Picture, but I think Kate Blanchett will be nominated for Best Actress.
She's amazing.
She is great. She can do no wrong. Every time she's in something, I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. But did you see the trailer for this one?
I did see this trailer.
What do you think?
Yeah, looks cool. It looks like it's giving me Black Swan vibes. There's lots of like evocative like flashes of like an old man in black and white but with red lips like kissing the camera.
Yeah.
And then like her like dancing and moving, and it's all just too much. And then flashing musical and ballet, like pirouetting. And
Kind of feel that could go either way. It could be very annoying. Do you know what?
That's the thing. I can't say, oh, this looks like a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It could be incredible.
I watched the trailer for it and I was like, of all the films that are in this contender list, I guess that's the one I'm going to have to see at a Curzon. Or an Everyman. It's got sort of Curzon Everyman Picture House written all over it. That's not one you go see at the local
with a glass
Odeon.
of Riesling on the little table next to you. Interesting.
And a £4 bag of popcorn.
But they're like the
£8 at least.
smallest bag.
One kernel
Their
each.
business model is like, let's keep the same price of expensive popcorn, but give you like a quarter of the amount you get at a multiplex.
And you'll be like, it tastes better because I'm supporting independent cinema. Okay.
Mixed feelings, but it looks cool. Kate Blanchett could do no wrong.
Okay, the next film on the list, which we've talked about before, we didn't have to dwell on it, is Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
Which is I think is breaking records as we speak. It's still one of the. It's now not just in like the biggest of the years. It's like in the biggest of all time category for films, like, which I think is fantastic for a film that's sequel to a film from 37 years ago. Has no sort of connected universe to it.
No.
It is the film that everyone is lumping on as being like the savior of cinema.
My last resounding comment on Top Gun Maverick is just, that's how you do it.
Yeah,
that's how you do not just a fun movie,
a blockbuster movie.
Blockbuster movie. You bring back an old IP and make it fresh for a modern audience. Like, that's how you do it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, and as you said at the time as well, it is so much better than it needs to be.
Yeah,
and that has any right to be.
It really just.
It is. I think that'll be nominated for Best Picture in the same way they always give one. You know, they nominated Black Panther for it as well.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it'll win at all, but it'd be like, in recognition of the fact that that's a popular film that has done very well and is also good.
Yeah.
I don't think. Well, I mean, you never know. We might see something crazy like Joseph Kosinski being nominated for Best Director in the same way like George Miller was nominated for Mad Max Fury Road, which I always thought was really interesting when you see like a big, heavy spectacle.
Yes. No, I see.
I wouldn't be surprised if Lady Gaga wins another Oscar for writing a song for that. You know,
she's like best song.
Yeah, best song.
I can't tell you what song it is.
No. Okay. This is another different one as well. It's the Triangle of Sadness, which won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival way back in May, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a new film by Ruben Östlund, who's this Swedish filmmaker who made Force Majeure and The Square. He makes films, Östlund, that are like satirical and critique wealth and stuffiness and pretentiousness, and often put people in positions of power in very precarious and difficult positions. I've not seen Force Majeure, but I really, really want to.
That's exactly what this film looks like.
Yeah. So I have seen The Square, which I did struggle to get along with, but that was a whole critique about the art world and the exhibition world. But yeah, this one, The Triangle of Sadness, is set on a luxury yacht, and it's got a cast and characters from all across the world. Our English-speaking characters, Harris Dickinson, who seems to be this new actor that's come around. He's been in The King's Man. He's in See How They Run, and now he's in this film. He's just sort of part of it. You have these very sort of over-the-top rich characters on this luxury yacht. The captain is played by Woody Harrelson. But then, of course, what happens is there's, strange things happen. There's a storm. There's this and that, and then it just becomes this sort of everything goes wrong. This carnival. People throw up. There's things getting damaged. It looks
like there's like mass food poisoning.
Yeah.
Like the threat of the ship going down. Like
it looks funny.
It looks really funny.
It looks very mad.
It's a great moment when this woman goes to Woody Harrelson, looks like he plays the captain of the ship. And she goes, "Will you be cleaning the sails today?" And he has to very delicately explain to her that actually they're on a motorized boat and there are no sails. But she just fails to understand that concept, and he just goes, "Yeah, of course we can clean the sails for you today. We can get that done." But just like you just say yes at all costs. Like the customer is literally always right, regardless of what they're saying.
I like the look of this because it's so grotesque. I do like something that kind of shakes the tree a little bit, and you know, I don't know if this will actually land in the Oscar camp. It might not be palatable enough.
Yeah.
But I like something that dares to make people a bit uncomfortable. And it's not, you know, it's not violent in any way. It's just like, look how like hideous and horrible this whole thing is. So
kind of similarly how the White Lotus was very good at
Yes.
showing you like both sides of the barn doors between like the fine dining and then the kitchen and the concierge.
Yeah.
And that made so many people. You really held up a mirror to this really artificial level of like high luxury service that like you've encountered so many times in your life. And it's just strange if you've been on both sides.
just thinking about The Square, by the way. So that's the film we made before. That has Terry Notary in it, who we didn't talk about when we saw Nope, right? Because Terry Notary played Gordy in Nope, and he actually does all the motion capture for like any sort of creature, particularly apes and monsters. So you know, the Rise of the Planet of the Apes trilogy and King Kong.
He's a movement specialist, so he's good at doing apes and like studies animals that need to be like motion captured by a human. But he will create structures for people. He will create like playbooks for how like an elf is meant to walk compared to a dwarf or an orc, because he's done all the Hobbit, Lord of the Rings films, and he's like immediately amazing at showing you that like a dwarf is a creature of the ground, so their center of gravity is low, and they make large footprint when they walk. And he teaches all of these actors like this is how a dwarf walks, whereas an elf is light and they don't weigh as much as a human and they glide along. And he's like, he's got the most amazing transformational body you've ever seen. And then like he's done loads of ape work, and he did pick up some King Kong. It's just, if you've ever seen behind the scenes of Terry Notary working, you've never seen anyone else look like that. And he's like off camera to the sides, and he's like, guys, you gotta get down, you gotta move. And he's like really energetic guy, and he's like he's brilliant.
But
he's played like Orc 9 in Lord of the Rings. You'll never know it's him.
They use him really well in The Square, and that there's this he's meant to be this artist, or he himself is meant to be the art piece that's meant to be shown, a bit of performance theatre. And then to really, you know, rustle feathers, he kind of not breaks in, but he comes into this massive gala dinner they're having, where there's all these rich people. And anyone who's seen The Square, there's the poster is actually Terry Notary in the gala dinner on the table, and he sort of comes in with his, you know, I don't really call them stirrups or whatever. He's got these kind of things that make him look like an ape that he'd be using, right? And he's in full ape mode. He's in just a bare chest. He's just dressed as a human, but he's in like.
And it's amazing seeing him do it.
But there's this 10-minute scene where he's going around the garden making people feel very uncomfortable. And there's this sort of tension in the room of like, oh, do I consume this as art? And it's really interesting or something. But then like he's getting very physical with people and he's frightening people. And it's brilliant to watch like how long people are prepared to put up with something if they think it's art. And he's like jumping on the table. It's brilliant. Okay, so that film was called The Triangle of Sadness.
It's
good. Okay, the next film. And probably I have to say, the one I'm looking forward to the most intrigued by, it's Darren Aronofsky's new film, right? It's called The Whale. It stars Brendan Fraser, Samantha Morton, who's also in She Said, and Sadie Sink from Stranger Things, right? And it's about a teacher who is morbidly obese, who is trying to reconnect with his daughter, played by Sadie Sink, right? That's sort of just so far. There's been no trailer release. There's just this screenshot of Brendan Fraser incredibly overweight, which is not prosthetic. He actually put on the weight for the film, and it received a 6-minute standing ovation at Venice. And there are some wonderful videos of Brendan Fraser overcome with emotion and crying,
like, and the whole theater was just completely like turned towards it and clapping.
And I think this is really the one to watch because, first of all, everyone loves a comeback story. You know, you and I, we have feelings of affection for Brendan Fraser because when we were growing up, he was in The Mummy. Right? We loved The Mummy. And he was George of the Jungle, right?
He's the new Indiana Jones for our generation in that period, I'd say.
And he is really good in The Mummy film.
He's really good.
He's dashing and heroic, but funny as well. Great comic timing. And then... I don't want to talk about this too much because I don't have all the facts right in front of me, but people can read about it. But this thing happened with Brendan Fraser where he basically came out in the mid-noughties and explained that he made this accusation against the former head of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association that he had sexually assaulted Brendan Fraser, I think at an award ceremony.
Right.
And nothing was ever done about it, but it's sort of widely sort of discussed as like this open secret that as a result, Brendan Fraser was kind of blacklisted. There was kind of this backlash against him.
disappear, yeah.
And that's why he said that his career definitely suffered from him coming out with this allegation, which is incredibly sad.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's funny, we were just talking about, you know, She Said in the context of the abuse in Hollywood. And it's like now you look back at that kind of story, like, oh, you know, it's...
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's kind of been away for a while. Even, you know, 3-4 years ago, I remember saying to people, like, where's Brendan Fraser gone? And slowly but surely, he's been coming back. You know, obviously he's older now. He was in The Affair season 2, which is this TV show.
Yes,
He came in
was,
that.
yeah.
He's been having these minor bit parts here, and has been really gaining momentum. But this really seems to be his moment. And I genuinely think that we will be talking in a few months' time as he will be the front runner to win the Oscar. Not only because we like a comeback, but people also like a physical transformation.
I love it.
It's got all the hallmarks of an Oscar winner. He also seems to be incredibly humble and incredibly mild-mannered, which I really like. There's no ego there. Did you have something to say?
Well, are you done?
No, I can keep going. Sorry.
That's all right. I was going to say, to me, Darren Aronofsky is the kind of director that could either receive a 6-minute standing ovation at a film festival or like booing and people walking out.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an in-between. It's encouraging to see that there's a 6-minute standing ovation, and I'm definitely interested to see it.
Well, that's another reason.
Either way.
That's another reason why I'm interested to see it. So you got the whole Brendan Fraser element, and that's great. Darren Aronofsky is an interesting director.
Yeah.
I really like Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah.
It's one of those films that people say they really struggle to watch and they find really hard hitting, but I like enjoy watching it.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
It zips along. It's hard. It's a challenging watch.
Yeah, it's a challenging watch. He made Black Swan, which I really enjoyed. I haven't seen Noah. Do you remember that?
Yeah, which I haven't either because it just seemed like such an odd sidestep.
It was a bit sort of off-brand. He also made The Fountain in like 2005, which I think was not a success, but is now like a cult film. It was with Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz. It's all about the Tree of Life. And then he made The Wrestler as well. That's a really good film. And I feel like The Whale is kind of in Wrestler territory. You know, The Wrestler was all about Mickey Rourke's comeback as well. I feel like this has fallen in that camp. So very interesting director. Oh, and he made Mother. Sorry.
I was going to say missing Mother! Exclamation mark.
Look, Darren Aronofsky always makes the film he wants to make. I think that's the nicest way of saying it, okay? So...
anyone who's seen Mother knows why we can't even go into it.
Yeah,
it's just its own thing.
You watch and you kind of go, okay.
Whoa.
Okay, if you say so, Darren, I mean, whatever. I don't really know why you needed to say all that, but
it's
sure.
There.
So Brendan Fraser, Darren Aronofsky, and also Sadie Sink. For me, Sadie Sink has always been the most interesting actor in Stranger Things. I think she's a really charismatic presence, and I'm interested and look forward to seeing her career grow outside of Stranger Things. There's a great video where they're being interviewed, and the interviewer says to the whole cast of The Whale, they say, "What movie do you think of when you hear the name Brendan Fraser?" Right? And there's kind of silence. One of the cast members says, "Oh, The Mummy, always." And then somebody other mentions another Brendan Fraser film. And Sadie Sink says, Sadie Sink's like 20, right? Or maybe even 19. She's like, "I only know Brendan Fraser as this character, as this man."
You love to hear that.
And he smiles and he like gives her a hug. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where this film goes.
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's an actor's response.
Okay.
That's someone who's only ever going to be known for Stranger Things response.
Yeah. Okay, last film is The Woman King with Viola Davis, right? And John Boyega and Lashana Lynch. So this is set in 18th century Africa, and it's about relationship between Europeans invading and people who are already there, and the fight and the sort of conflict that arises between them. I mean, I admit when I watched the trailer, I was surprised to see it in this list because it's edited and shot like a mass, blockbuster kind of vibe. Looks very spectacular. I love Viola Davis. Anyway, she might be. I wouldn't be surprised again if it's one of those films that doesn't get nominated, but she'll be in for a performance.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
This looks like an incredibly physical, grueling part. And actually, Lashana Lynch, who I've mentioned before, I really liked in the Bond film. She's not really in this trailer much, but every bit she's in, I was like, you're very good, actually.
Good.
I really want to see more of you.
Big rising star, I think.
Did you have any thoughts on the Woman King?
It's hard because I don't want to prejudge, but when you just said it's cut like an action blockbuster, I felt like the tone was very mismatched for the content that it's trying to portray, or the story it's trying to portray. It's really hard because it's just a trailer and it could just be trying to get a really broad audience. But I'm almost thinking like, wow, this is like a really interesting untold story about something I don't think I know very much about, but could like be really eye-opening. And then it was cut like a Marvel movie a bit.
It was,
and that's why I was like, I'm not sure what that is. I could just be prejudging, and I'm very happy to sort of see it. But that tone mismatch, I think, has made me a bit cautious. But otherwise, it looks really cool. Great actors involved.
That's just some of the films.
That's another thing. I think whenever I'm seeing John Boyega recently, he always seems to be able to play someone like well beyond his years. Even though he isn't playing older characters, he always seems to be able to like capture a wiser and older energy in his acting. And people always say he's like Denzel Washington, but kind of like how Denzel Washington's always been able to do that when he was younger.
Do you know what? I really liked John Boyega in Detroit. Did you see
he's fantastic in
really
Detroit.
good in Detroit. A really sort of unshowy role.
So good.
All about eyes and being...
There's a film which I've just sent to you. There's a film which he is in. I think, is it called Breaking? Where he plays like an ordinary guy who lost all his money. He's breaking into a bank. I don't know if it's very good, but John Boyega.
Yes, I read the
I'm quite
synopsis.
curious to see it.
I mean, the thing on the poster says this generation's Dog Day Afternoon. I don't know if you've ever seen Dog Day Afternoon, but then I read the premise and that's basically the premise of Dog Day Afternoon. Al Pacino, John Cazale walk into a bank and hold it up. But that's based on a true story. Anyway, so those are just some of the main contenders. There are just to name check a couple more that we haven't really talked about. Obviously, Avatar: The Way of Water is coming out. I think it's undoubtedly going to be recognised at least in the post-production categories. You've got Amsterdam, which is this film with Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, and various other famous people, which is David O. Russell. Now, David O. Russell was like riding a high on like the Oscars like 10 years ago. You know, The Fighter, Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle. Amsterdam looks like one of those films, again, could go either way.
It's a David O. Russell. There's wigs, there's personalities, there's accents, there's prosthetics. It's like he's got his own brand of slightly over design.
Yeah.
But it still looks really good. Like the caliber of actors you got. John David Washington, Margot Robbie.
You and I are real suckers for a good cast list, aren't we? I mean, like, I think we'd always go, okay, if they're in it, then we'll watch it.
He's got like, he always has this big actors acting big.
Yeah.
You've got very, Christian Bale's in it, and he's going to be doing a lot, and he's going to be, and
he's got a glass eye in this. It's all about him having a glass eye.
Like this sort of bruised face.
It's sort of set in Europe just after the First World War, and there's some sort of like trio doing sort of cons. It's sort of ragtag. It's like American Hustle, but 100 years ago, whatever. There's also a film called Armageddon Time with Anthony Hopkins, Jeremy Strong, and Anne Hathaway, which is directed by James Gray, who did Ad Astra, which actually looks very grounded, very personal, almost like in a Licorice Pizza kind of way, about two friends in the early 80s America growing up on different sides of the tracks. There is Blonde, which is the Ana de Armas, Marilyn Monroe film. Which
didn't that get a lot of great reviews? Has that been reviewed? Am I making that up?
No, I think that has had some good reviews. That's coming out on Netflix in like November. Here's the thing. I think I've said this to you before. When I first heard about Blonde, I had the same thing as I thought about Elvis, which was like, okay, here's one of the most famous like icons of pop culture. What new are you gonna? What is it you're gonna do with this story? This icon.
We've had like the Elton John movie, we've had the Queen movie.
Yeah, exactly. But also like Marilyn Monroe has had like so many different treatments. You've had My Week with Marilyn, but they do say that this is very much a fictional interpretation of like a real part of her life. And so it's directed by Andrew Dominic, who made like Killing Them Softly, and I think also he might have done The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Really long film title, but quite an interesting film. I don't know if you saw that with Brad Pitt and Casey Affleck.
No.
Anyway, I digress. They also say it's very much in the vein of like, it is to real life what Spencer was to the real life of Diana.
Fine, yeah.
Which I think makes you go immediately cold on it, and it really intrigues me.
I'm not against it. I didn't get on with Spencer. Yeah. Like the Blonde trailer looks very cool. Yeah. Like the flashing burning light bulbs and her looking at her own
and the
reflection.
Deep black and white.
This like this almost studio spotlit sense for the whole film looks really intriguing, and I think it could be really beautiful. But we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. I mentioned Elvis. I think there's a good chance. I'd love for Austin Butler to be nominated for Best Actor. There's probably a couple of songs in there that Mark Ronson's been involved in that might be nominated for an Oscar. That's just what he does.
I've seen some amazing videos which are side by side of Austin Butler in the film performing a song and then the exact performance he's doing, and it's like.
Do you know what I've realised?
Frame for frame.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
Sorry.
What I've really realised with Elvis is that I think it has found its audience. It had its release, and at first I was like, I don't know if people are going to go for this, but I've had loads of things online, talking about Elvis, keep going through it. It's like it's clearly actually finding people and it's gathering an audience. I think the other one is possibly Everything Everywhere All at Once, which might get nominated.
Which we talked about a few months ago.
Outlier chance because it came out like months ago.
It's not going to be as fresh,
but indie film, big budget.
I don't think they would have been going for the awards.
No, but I think they might get recognised in a way that film has done incredibly well.
Yes, lots of people talking about it.
Yes, it has a big budget, but like it's got an absurd concept by directors that aren't really known.
Yeah.
It hasn't really got anyone apart from Michelle Yeoh. It's not really got any recognisable stars in it, and yet it's really connected to the people, and people have really eaten it up. It's a non-studio film in a way.
Yes,
those are just some of the many films out there at the moment.
Exciting time. Looks like a good year.
I say out
Having
there at the
seen
moment.
none of them.
Sorry, I just said those are some of the films that are out there at the moment. Those are some of the films out in running for the Oscars.
The Oscars.
Coming up. Let us know which ones you're excited for. James, if you had to pick one of those, what is the one you're most excited to see?
I think The Whale, just because of the buzz that's preceding it. I think what's the Spielberg one?
Fabelmans.
The Fabelmans.
Yeah.
I was about to say the Fabians. The Fabelmans.
I agree.
Just because Spielberg doing Spielberg sounds like a good idea on paper. But like without having seen any of these films apart from the older ones, it looks like a good year.
Yeah, it does look like a good year.
Awful, but it looks like a good year. Sometimes you get to it and you're like, what's even nominated this year? I'm not even.
You and I have talked about that.
We did.
We've had those years where films just seem to come out purely to be nominated for an Oscar and then they disappear again. But this year, you've got a lot of returning talent. You've got Damien Chazelle, Martin McDonagh,
David O. Russell.
Sam Mendes, Steven Spielberg, David O. Russell, Baz Luhrmann, all coming in.
It's a great time.
That's a great selection.
Yeah.
We could be in for a really exciting awards season.
In the lead up, if you're seeing one film from one of those directors every 2-3 weeks, it's a good time to be alive.
Absolutely.
Good time to go to the cinema.
Absolutely.
I'm in.
Okay.
And stay tuned for all those hot takes, reviews. We'll be right here to cover it all.
We will be trying to watch them all. Guys, let us know which one of those you're most interested to see.
Or if there's something we missed out that you think we've overlooked, please send it our way. Send us a trailer. We'd love to have a look at it.
And James, where do they send it to?
hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com.
Brilliant.
So I had to wake up really early last week. It was like a 4 a.m. wake up to catch a flight. And, I'm like one eye open, going through security. Yeah. And I'm just sitting on the plane, waiting to take off. And I get an email from our listeners. Yeah. And it just puts a smile on my face.
I know.
It's the best. It's always the best.
You and I, when we prep this episode, we sort of have a little quantify of the emails and see how many we got to read out to work it out for timing. And this week we were like, oh my God, we've got so many.
We can't answer them all in
We
one
can't
week.
answer them all this week. And we're having to strategize it. And then we were like, that's such a wonderful thing. Guys, I know we say this every week, but we really appreciate it. It really means so much to us.
We love the emails. And I think in one world, I'd love to have like an hour of the show doing emails. But also, I just think we want to have our main content of the show, which makes the title and a bit of waffle. And then we want to do some emails. But I think it's good to sort of have it somewhat, less than half an hour's worth of emails, because otherwise it's just too much.
We do read them, and
we always do.
Your voice is heard.
And I'll try and respond to you if we're not going to get it that week. But thank you so much. Always remember that you can write us an email by emailing hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, just like Harriet did. Harriet writes into the show and she says, "Dear James and George, I hope this email finds you well.
Lovely email.
I was wondering what your thoughts are about how National Theatre performances translate to the cinema screen. I've seen a couple of National Theatre screenings, namely Jodie Comer in Prima Facie.
Isn't it Prima Facie?
Prima Facie, thank you. Hamlet and Frankenstein with Benedict Cumberbatch. I thought all performances were brilliant and loved how theatre is becoming more accessible, especially in cost, through cinema screenings. However, in all performances, I wondered if However, in all performances, I wondered if I was missing anything through certain camera shots. A focus in Hamlet on Benedict Cumberbatch meant that bigger stage moments were slightly lost. Do you have any thoughts on National Theatre screenings? Have either of you seen any? Are there any National Theatre performances that you think people should see? I look forward to the podcast every week, and you often join me when in the gym. Thank you, Harriet.
If you're listening to us in the gym right now, you go for it.
Yeah,
you can do it.
Do that squat.
Great question. Really good question.
Really good.
My initial reaction is to say, well, you know, cinema showing live theatre is great. Anything that gets people going to the cinema is a good thing. And anything that gets people engaged in theatre as well via the cinema is a good thing. I have seen some National Theatre lives. I haven't seen that many. I think off the top of my head, like Amadeus was one of them. I think that the thing is about when you have shots and you break away from more close-ups and you think you're missing a wider part of the stage is that in filming theatre, you do need to sort of use cinematic language a little bit. Otherwise, if you were just to show a static wide shot of the entire play, you'd get bored and it would feel very, very flat.
Yeah.
You need to translate it into film, as it were. You need to break it with close-ups or whatever. And yes, you might be losing something with that, admittedly, but you also might be gaining something as well. There is a new meaning.
Closer than you ever would.
Exactly. There is a new meaning created with those decisions. I think it's a smart observation that you've pointed out, Harry. But I think on the whole, that anything that gets people like engaged in it is a good thing.
I would really like to see Prima Facie, and I've heard Jodie Comer is amazing in it, and I've seen it shown on my local View, and it's even though it's quite old, it comes up quite a lot, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should just see it, because I think that the theatre is incredible, but it's famously just been so inaccessible. You need to spend a lot of money on a ticket for a set period of time, and then you can never experience that incredible performance ever again unless they rerun it. But like, you'll never see it with that actor again, probably. And I just think that's such a shame that we live in this era where, like, of course, seeing it live is an incredible thing. So is seeing a football match, but it doesn't mean I don't also want to watch the football match on TV. It's a different experience.
Of course.
But, like, I would like to experience it. I do feel that my hit rate with good theatre is way less than my hit rate with good films, but I think that you should always make those performances more accessible to people.
I agree. And
why not?
Also, another thing, people might not be known to this because, you know, we talked about Amazon Prime's user experience is famously terrible. By the way, they revamped it and it's still just as bad.
It's still not great.
I can't believe they've spent money on revamping the UX. It's still terrible.
The worst one.
But hidden in their, you know, labyrinthine carousel, there are actually loads of National Theatre performances that you can watch, including the Danny Boyle's Frankenstein from 2009, I want to say, which Harry mentions.
Or like to buy
included with Prime.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I was just bored of trying to get to the bottom of this carousel and see what was there. And it was there, and I haven't seen that. It's the one with, you know, Cumberbatch and Johnny Lee Miller. They switched it, and I think they say the best one is Johnny Lee Miller as the creature and Cumberbatch as Frankenstein.
Okay,
watch both. But it's there if you want to watch it, people. It's just not advertised. It is part of the carousel, a whole selection of performances.
Oh, wow,
so,
that's great.
Yeah, go seek those out.
This next one is from Christopher. Hey, boys, but like bois, spelt B-O-I-S.
Hey, boys.
Hey, boys. Pretty recent listener, but I'm digging everything you've put out so far.
Thanks.
I'm looking for some advice / wanted to vent a bit. Game of Thrones is one of the most important television series of my life. I basically grew up watching it every week for almost a decade and read the books about the same time. So you could say it's a big part of my life. So this new show, I've been preparing for it mentally, and I'm so excited. My partner, who I introduced Game of Thrones to, wants to watch along with me. However, they is going on a work trip for 2 weeks and will be gone for 3 Sundays the night it airs in the US. They want me to wait for them. It is almost unbearable. What should I do, boys? Wait in agony and risk spoilers? Watch it anyway? Watch and risk and ask for forgiveness later? Keep it to myself? Cheers, Christopher. P.S. I'm a big movie podcast listener. What are your favorites? Well, this is now, we are 3 weeks into House of the Dragon, but 4 episodes in because they've done 2 in 1 week. So I assume you've either caved.
I would say.
What would you say, George?
I think that's something you need to work out with your other half because really, I don't want to. That could cause quite an argument. I think best to wait because the experience of watching it with someone going, is more valuable than being first. Yay, got in there, saw the episode. just try and avoid spoilers and watch it together, and you will have a more meaningful time.
I think so too. I don't think there is anything like that crazy right now to be spoiled that it's going to ruin your experience if you heard about
I would
it.
just say if they could be around to watch the finale like the week it airs.
Sync the finale. Prioritize the finale. First few episodes, whatever. Even though they're great. This next one is from Sander. Hello, lads. Greetings from Oslo, Norway.
Hey, Oslo.
Yeah. Found you guys on
TikTok
earlier this year, and I've been binging everything. Wednesdays are now my favorite day of the week.
Yay.
Now for the question. Have you ever seen the trailer for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey? If you haven't, I'll leave it here, and he sent a YouTube link. What are your thoughts on Winnie the Pooh entering the public domain?
Yeah.
What other versions of the beloved bear do you think we'll see in the future? As mentioned, love your work and keep going. Sander.
Several people sent this to me the day this
I just
came
think
out,
Winnie
right?
the Pooh, Blood and Honey
Yeah.
sounds
Right.
like an action film.
So, Winnie the Pooh, because it's the A.A. Milne Winnie the Pooh, the original character, was written so long ago, over 70 years ago, it is now passed into public domain.
That's how the law works.
That's how the law works, right? The cartoon of Winnie the Pooh is still owned by Disney, obviously, that is Disney's copyright, but the character of Winnie the Pooh and Piglet and Tigger and Christopher Robin is not.
Yeah.
So it means anyone can make a Winnie the Pooh film if they want, which is what has happened. There is this film that's been made called Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, which is where Christopher Robin, grown up, goes back to the forest and they're not there. And Winnie the Pooh and Piglet want revenge for being abandoned, and they attack them at night in a house. Right, it's a horror film basically, right?
Yeah.
Now, your opinion is, what do you think about the fact that this film? And look, the thing is, if anyone's watched the trailer for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, it looks rubbish. It doesn't look rubbish because it's necessarily a bad idea. It looks rubbish because it looks like it was made for about £3, right? It looks like it was made after school, on for a couple of GCSE students. Look, and I'm sorry if I'm offending people who made that film. I know it takes a lot of work to make a film, but come on. I watched it and I was like, this film isn't asking to be taken seriously. It's called Blood and Honey. It looks like it's made very cheaply. They barely show Winnie the Pooh in the actual trailer. But how do I feel that characters are now in the public domain like that? I guess I'll take it on a case by case.
I guess it just shows just because you can make something
doesn't mean you should.
It's like when White Christmas by Bing Crosby got put in the public domain, and then loads of artists covered it without having to pay the Bing Crosby Foundation for making it. It just doesn't mean that those were good White Christmas covers. They're just there to exist. This next one is from Elliot, who writes into the show and says, "Hi guys, I'm a fairly new listener and completely hooked. I love how excited and passionate you are about film, often making me want to go back and revisit a classic you've discussed or add it to the watch list. I'm hugely intrigued by Shame after hearing James talk about it. Yes, go check it out. My first question isn't really related to movies, but I'm hoping you can help. I'm a complete rookie when it comes to cameras, still using the iPhone myself. What would you recommend as a good starting camera? It's good starting camera, something you can understand relatively easily, can experiment with, and create nice shots slash footage with. I've been hugely impressed by both of your photography skills since following you both on Instagram. Any advice would be greatly appreciated." So I'll address this before the film question. That's a really, really hard question, Elliot. Basically because you haven't given me a budget, and what's happened to the genuinely, because what's happened to the camera market is that the smartphone has swallowed up the entry-level consumer cameras, and all that's left is what we call prosumer and professional cameras, which are very expensive. And the chances are that any camera that isn't going to cost you more than £1,000 to buy, that's before you bought the lens, chances are your smartphone can take a better picture that's easier for you to use.
Perhaps my camera didn't cost more than £1,000.
No, but I would say that if you're someone who wants to just pick up a camera, I don't necessarily think you're going to be shooting manually, which is a big difference between people who are just picking up a camera to take it. If you can learn to shoot manually and you know what that means, by all means jump in. You can try and buy a camera for like £600-700, but you are going to have to buy a lens with that to factor into the cost. Cameras I look at are the Canon EOS RP, Sony A7. I wouldn't recommend a point and shoot because your iPhone's just as good, but as always, invest in a better lens and a camera first. That's all I can say. It's a really hard question to ask.
So James and I both like taking photos. Both in photography. James has been into it longer than I have.
Yes, yeah.
And about 3 years ago, I wanted to buy a camera. I was in the exact same position, and you were very helpful in giving me lots of advice.
Yeah.
And I ended up buying a Canon EOS 200D,
200D,
which is around like the 700 at the time. Was around about the 750 mark, including the stock lens you get given with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And I didn't know how to shoot manual. I didn't know how to shoot those things, but I bought it and knowledge that I knew that I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And I therefore used buying the camera and then as an opportunity to train up and meet that at that level. So that's what my advice to this emailer would be, is kind of think if you're looking to actually get a proper DSLR, then you're going to have to learn how to shoot a DSLR.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you shouldn't buy one. It means that if you buy it, learn how to use it. If you're just, as you've said to me before, if you just shoot on auto,
You'll never learn.
Wasting your time. You'll never learn.
Wasting money.
And like now, I can shoot a manual, and I just intuitively know, ISO, exposure, and all that stuff.
So my first camera that I bought was a Canon 80D, which is like an intermediate level camera that can do great auto stuff for someone who just wants to pick it up, but it had some more features that I could grow into.
Yeah.
So even though I spent a bit more money, I grew into it. Even though I spent a bit more money on the camera, it was ready to take me into manual shooting, and it had amazing video. And like, as I kept growing and learning and investing in more equipment, better lenses, that camera, for the most part, was ready for me to do that.
Yeah.
That I spent, I think, £850, £900 on that camera before the lens. So like, it's an expensive investment, but I did then go on to like make that my career, and I eventually earned money from that camera, which was so great. So my relationship with spending money on camera equipment is very different when you like make money from it. So
there's also loads of great resources now to buy secondhand camera equipment.
Yes, secondhand lenses. Buy a lens secondhand.
MDP, I think, is one of the most big websites.
Yeah,
around there,
eBay. I've bought secondhand
Yeah, of
lenses off
course.
eBay. Next time, give a budget and I can get a sense of where you're at. Because if you're happy to spend £1,000 on a camera, I've got loads of great recommendations for you, but like not other people who aren't making money from camera equipment are. And then now for the film question. Have you ever seen the Korean horror movie, The Wailing? I've never experienced a movie like it. The horror gets under your skin and leaves you feeling so uncomfortable from start to finish, yet I couldn't take my eyes off it. Would highly recommend as we get closer to Halloween. Keep up the great work, guys. Elliot Gills. And he's put his, I think his Instagram, which is IMO Reviews.
Okay. I haven't seen The Wailing, but the reason I chuckled when he mentioned it is because I have a friend who would not shut up about
heard
The Wailing
a lot about The Wailing.
ages. He was like, "Oh, The Wailing. The Wailing is so..." So this is how he talks. He's like, "It's so good. Have you seen it yet? Oh, better than Train to Busan. It's so good."
Now it's like in your mind, is this annoying?
Yeah, look, I know it's like 2.5 hours long.
looks
So I never
good.
sat down to do it. But you know what? I am actually looking for... Me and my flatmate, we usually watch horror films together. And
Yeah.
this very evening, I'm thinking of what we can watch. The Wailing might be it. If it's that unsettling... You haven't seen it, right?
It's been on my list for a long time. I've had it
Yeah.
recommended to me many times.
Okay.
The Wailing.
Thanks for bringing it to our attention again. We will be talking... We got a couple of emails. Either we haven't talked about them yet or we have in the past about horror films.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's approaching Halloween. I'm pretty sure, James, we'll do some of our favourite scary
Yeah, we can do some scary
films
ones.
when we get near Halloween. Okay.
G'day, blokes. I've noticed that you are both very stylish gentlemen. Thank you. I'd wanted to know guys, if you're just listening to this show, you're missing out. Clearly.
I'm here in full Ferrucci. And James is
I'm
here
in a peacock costume. Yeah, guys, we film it for a reason.
Yeah.
I wanted to know if there have been any films or TV shows that have had an impact on your personal style, i.e. Ryan Gosling made me wear so many V-necks in 2013 because of Only God Forgives. Keep up the sensational work, Nick.
Very good question.
Great question.
I thought about that
Different
because
question.
that's not what are some very... All right. Play, James, please.
Yeah.
And that's not what are very stylish films. That's what films have influenced your style.
style.
So when I first read that, I was like, oh, stylish films, Talented Mr. Ripley, Phantom Thread. But then I was like, no, what has influenced my style? And it's hard, but I thought about something very specific. Call Me By Your Name,
Yes.
Army Hammer,
Yes.
I've realised subconsciously has affected the way I dress in the summer, which is now I wear big, baggy...
Pirate shirts.
Not pirate shirts, James. I wear big, slightly oversized, very colourful second-hand shirts that were probably like dad shirts in the 90s, or like, like they're very sort of slightly faded. And wearing those big, baggy, over some shorts, it's kind of got the nice billowy, summery Army Hammer and Call Me By Your Name vibe.
Yeah,
I think
that's a great style thing to work from. You mentioned mine, Jude Law and Talented Mr. Ripley.
You think he's yours? Yeah.
I mean,
Look
how
at you.
could
Look
you
at
not? He has these beautiful white pleated trousers with these loafers, and then this like linen, slightly tighter fitting polo shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, God damn, he looks good in that. I have more less style icon, but like movement and philosophy things, which I think have really influenced me.
Oh, I like that.
Do you know what I mean? Like the way in which someone carries themselves.
Yes. Oh,
and
that's
it
very
could be in
interesting.
really unassuming films, like the way in which George Clooney does the airport in Up in the Air.
Right.
For some reason, every time I'm in the airport, I'm thinking about that monologue he gives about traveling and making it seamless and don't even do it. I know what to do, and I'm an expert because George Clooney's just
Yes.
so like cool and charming. And I've always thought about these mantras and these like those characters that seem to really know what they're doing in life. And those things have stuck with me.
I remember when I was a kid really thinking about the way that Jim Carrey moved on screen and incorporating that into the way that I was in the playground and like trying to be as energetic and sort of quick and fast and I love that's I'm gonna have to think about that what you've just said. That's a really interesting about like individual movements or ideas or ways of speaking that have been influenced.
When you go and see a film as a kid and you've been really swept up in it and like you adopt the personality of the main character on the way home and you just think, like that's me now. I've been so influenced by this cool like older version of how I could see myself and I've just like adopted that. It's more than just fashion in a way. Like fashion obviously really heavily influenced it and
you're not probably going to like this, but I did think about this with it, email. I think you've got a touch of Kramer in Seinfeld about the way you dress.
Right, a little bit. Well, a lot of Kramer's clothes now are, not to say I'm so trendy, but a lot of his clothes have become into fashion. The kind like of trousers and
I guess you call them Cuban shirts, don't you? The ones that are like short sleeve shirts with the wide collars.
And he wears he wears a lot of cardigans. I wear a cardigan.
And also he wears like pleated, almost like suit trousers.
Yes.
And you've got like those dog tooth trousers. I mean, obviously on this show, no one's ever going to see our bottom half. But yeah, he's wearing them now.
I'm wearing a Kramer outfit.
And you wear like your brogues, whatever.
Yeah.
You kind of like a
nice trouser with some smart shoes and like a casual top. But
whereas I think I'm much more of a blend of Jerry and George.
Yes, I see elements of Jerry and you. Whereas like I don't iron my shirts a lot, and Kramer's he's always untucked with like an unironed shirt, linen.
I'm like Jerry. I'm wearing a colourful button down now, ironed.
And you've worn the large white trainers.
Exactly, but I think I've also got the George Costanza, like maybe. I literally bought a shirt in New York that I was like, this is a George Costanza shirt.
Yeah,
I have to have this. Anyway, moving on.
This one is from Harvey.
Okay.
Hi guys, I'm currently sitting on a train to work listening to the latest and my first Pulp Kitchen episode. Harvey, welcome.
Welcome to the show.
I came across a clip on
TikTok
and I saw you talking about Hacksaw Ridge and knew I had to listen. I am in complete agreement. Yes. I could not stop laughing at how bad that film was when I first saw it, but everyone I've spoken to since loved it. I just don't get it, ! For me, it was the whole boot camp section of the film. I love Vince Vaughn. I completely forgot Vince Vaughn was in it. I love Vince Vaughn, but that was not the role for him. It was all just a bit ridiculous. Great true story, but badly done in my opinion. Anyways, just wanted to thank you for confirming I'm not the weird one for liking it. The pod episode was great, and I will absolutely be listening to past and future episodes from now on. Cheers, Harvey. How cathartic is that to hear?
So, look, Harvey, thank you so much for writing that in. Look,
validating
if people here are fans of Hacksaw Ridge, we do not have a problem with that. We are not for 1 minute trying to be negative or crap on your opinion of liking Hacksaw Ridge.
We try not to put negativity out there.
We were just, James and I happen to both agree, feel the same way about this film. And we were wondering if we were out of touch or if anyone else felt the same way.
We remembered that we shared a funny opinion about it.
So we posted that clip to TikTok, and sure enough, everyone was like, what are you talking about? It's a great film.
Really great film. Amazingly acted, beautifully shot.
And honestly, after about half an hour of posting it, I thought, oh, what have we done this for?
Yeah.
All the comments we're going to get are negative.
And then I was like, we shouldn't just put negative stuff out there if we can't back
and then Harvey, that email makes it completely worthwhile because I'm so glad that there was someone out there who saw that and was like, no, actually,
thank you.
I agree.
It's a great story.
Great
told
story.
Really badly.
It's like Mel Gibson said, why don't I tell this story with the most amount of war movie cliches possible?
Yeah.
And all the Hallmark movie cliches.
If I make it really cheesy, people think it's really emotionally profound.
Yeah. No. I remember the boot camp sequence. It was like, it's just so cliched, so imitating other things. It's not... when you've got things like Full Metal Jacket, Harvey.
It's like 20 years out of time, the writing in that. Anyway,
thank you, Harvey, for that email.
Well, there you go. We'll end on that. Thank you very much for writing into this week's episode. We will do our best. We do have more, and we're going to get through them. We just don't want to make a really long podcast. But if you wanted to send in an email, you can do. And please do. Send it into hello@popkitchenpodcast.com, and we'll do our best to read it out on the show.
Thank you, guys.
So, George, last week you ended on a little trivia thing that you sent me, and I thought it was very interesting. And I thought I would end the show as well on a different piece of trivia.
Okay.
We remember Nope, a film we saw a few weeks ago, and it was shot on location in the Californian desert. And what I learned about the film is that the shots at night, of which there are many, were shot in the middle of the day.
What?
So Hoyt van Hoytma has pioneered this new way of shooting night scenes using infrared, right, which just completely blows my mind. So the reason why you need light to shoot at night.
Yes.
And if you are putting a character in somewhere at night, you can light them. But if they're not meant to be lit by anything, it means that your shot is really dark and you cannot capture the footage because it will just break down. So they used infrared cameras to shoot that scene using infrared, and then they graded it blue to look like the night, because you would have to basically light not only your main star, Daniel Kaluuya, you would have to light the entire desert around them, or you shoot in a studio. So because they wanted to shoot on location and they didn't want to light the entire desert behind that person, they shot it in the middle of the day using infrared, this special rig.
What do you mean by, I know what kind of infrared is, but what does that enable you to do?
Infrared is a light spectrum that's not visible to human light. And I'll show you an image of what it means. When you shoot infrared, you get a shot that looks like that. It's like this different spectrum. And often in black and white cinematography, you'll actually get two different shots of your film. You'll get a regular one in color, and then they'll do an infrared scan of your film to like get the details that don't need color. Yeah. And I just thought it was amazing that I would never have known that like the scenes at night were shot in the middle of the day in high noon. I just thought, what amazing wizardry that they did with those cameras to capture that.
Brilliant.
And I'm actually
just thinking about it. Oh my God.
You would never have known. You would never have known.
Absolutely not. That's fantastic.
And now I think about it, because the characters were never lit, or if they were, they weren't lit directly with light.
And those light scenes, but they're so legible. You know, the darkness is legible. It is how you would be if your eyes were there and they had adjusted.
Yeah.
That's very good trivia.
It's really cool. And then you know that it has that really distinct blue grade. Yeah. And typically, like when films are graded, you always use blue to depict darkness, because you can't have darkness, because darkness is
literally nothing. Yeah.
Darkness is literally not. So you always light your characters with blue for darkness, and like so much of the film is blue.
Wow.
But like that just completely blows my mind for something that's completely seamless. It's a pure magic of cinema.
Shot it in the day.
Yeah, like high noon was when it was shot, and then you just use infrared scans to make your image and put it together to make a film.
Fantastic.
Mental. Hoyt van Hoytma,
he should win an Oscar for that alone.
Yeah, he's next level when it comes to it.
Thank you very much for that trivia.
That's all right. I just thought that was really interesting for anyone who's interested. Don't believe what you see on the cameras. It's all a lie.
Cinema is an illusion, after all, James.
Well, there you go. That was some trivia. Maybe we'll be back with some more. Maybe we'll be back with a game for next week. Yeah. But thank you so much for listening to this episode of Pulp Kitchen. As always, don't forget, we try to post our episode every single Wednesday. I will be better. And don't forget to like and subscribe. George, just tell us what else.
You know, guys, we have loads of stuff coming out on the channel.
We've just had some film reviews come out.
Just had some film reviews and Rings of Power. Like, you know, we see a lot and we talk about a lot, but sometimes that can't always fit within the confines of one episode. So we have a lot of stuff coming out. Check it out.
And I just want to remind people to please send in your opinions on the Rings of Power and the House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones show, because in a few weeks we're going to do a review of those first seasons, and I'd love to have as many different opinions, emails, questions as we can, and I think that will really help make a really good episode. So don't forget to send these in, as with any other questions, to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com.
And as ever, we thank you so much for listening. We love your support. Please remember to like and subscribe.
Go on the
follow
Instagram.
us on Instagram and TikTok, and give us the little 5 stars on Spotify, and look out for all the clips we post on Instagram and TikTok as well. We really, really appreciate it, and it makes
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Tell your family. You'll be like, oh, you like movies? Check out Pulp Kitchen.
See you next week.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we should do vocal warm-ups for the next time.
Oh, it's what's his face from Westworld and Batman?
No. Oh yeah, Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey Wright. Oh, yeah.
What was Jeffrey Wright doing in a vocal booth?
Well,
What does he say in the Batman?
Does this mean anything
to you?
To you? He'll talk very fast, and then he'll slow down.
Robin Pattinson walks really slowly over. Boom, 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 boom. He says to the Batman.
To the Batman. Is that you? I am the
God
Watcher.
damn, he's emailed every journalist in the city.
Lock him down.
God, my computer.